Legend of Korra, in my opinion, is one of the best animated series of all time. It's up there with Batman the Animated Series and its predecessor, Avatar The Last Airbender, which is saying something. Because I love this show so much, and since I already talked to you about The Last Airbender, I thought I'd give you my thoughts and opinions on the sequel series as a whole, break it down, and explain to you things I liked, some things I didn't particularly care for, and what makes this show so great. Now, there will be some spoilers, so I'm assuming if you're watching this, you've already seen the show. So as I mentioned, the series is based on its predecessor, Avatar The Last Airbender. And I think I made it pretty clear in my review for that show that I love it. Avatar The Last Airbender is one of the best shows ever made, not just in my opinion, but in others as well. It's ranked number 12 of the best rated TV shows of all time on IMDb. It had an amazing storyline, great characters, and created a unique and creative world in which it was based. It was very popular and very successful, and still gets praise from fans even today. The show ended in 2008 after its third season. It tied up all loose ends, well, almost all.
Where is my mother?
And had a fantastic ending to a fantastic show. But fans wanted more, and the brilliant creators of the show finally made that wish come true. At the 2010 Comic-Con, they announced that they were making a whole new series based in the same universe with the Avatar after Aang, called The Legend of Korra. 2 years later, in spring of 2012, they aired the first season, which consisted of 12 episodes. To be honest, I didn't expect much from it. I'd already been extremely disappointed with the movie adaptation of Avatar by M. Night Shyamalan. What a pile of shit that was. Korra consists of 4 seasons, or books as they call it. I'm going to split this review into 2 parts. In part 1, I'm going to talk about books 1 and 2. And in part 2, I'm going to finish it off with books 3 and 4. Let's get started. Book 1 is called Air. The first 2 episodes were released as one 1-hour special. I sat down thinking, okay, I'll give the show a chance. It has the original creators of Avatar, which was not the case for the movie, so it has a lot more potential. The beginning drew me in like no other pilot has before. It starts off with the intro from the original show, with the 4 most recent avatars, including Aang, Roku, and Kyoshi, finishing with Korra herself. Then my favorite score from the original series starts to play, and we hear Aang's son Tenzin talk about the original series characters.
When I was a boy, my father, Avatar Aang, told me the story of how he and his friends heroically ended the 100-Year War.
This was an amazing idea, because you feel comfortable from the start with the established characters that we know and love. This is different from other shows that start with completely random characters that mean nothing to us. This is a good way to transfer us from these familiar characters to the new ones. Then they talk about a new city that Aang and Zuko created called Republic City, where all benders and non-benders are welcome and can live in peace. This is one of my favorite things about the show, but I'll talk about that later. For now, let's talk about the characters. I really thought I would miss the characters from the original show, which is often the case with spin-offs like this, but it did the complete opposite. They made me care for each and every one of these characters just as much as I did for the characters in the original series. Obviously, the main character is Korra, the new Avatar. She is the complete opposite of Aang. She's headstrong, aggressive, and sort of selfish in the beginning, and often looks for fights and can be hot-headed at times, which of course was not the case with Aang, who was a pacifist who always tried to avoid conflict.
Violence wasn't the answer.
It never is.
I thought this was a great approach to her character because it makes her very distant from Aang, so she's not the same character rehashed. Korra's mastered 3 of the elements, water, fire, and earth, and has yet to master air, which is another thing that's the complete opposite of Aang, who mastered only air and still had to learn water, earth, and fire. Then we have Korra's friends, Bolin, Mako, and Asami. Bolin and Mako are brothers and are orphans that grew up on the street.
I did what I had to do to survive and protect my little brother.
I really like both of them. Mako is a firebender and Bolin is an earthbender. Mako is actually the name of the original voice actor for Iroh, which is probably why they named him that in tribute to him. Asami is the daughter of a rich man named Hiroshi Sato. She isn't a bender, but she can still kick some major ass. I think Asami is my favorite supporting character, and I'll explain why later on. One thing I think worth mentioning is the person who voices Asami also played Yue in M. Night Shyamalan's movie. I guess she just wanted to redeem herself in the eyes of Avatar fans, and I think she did just that in my opinion. She did a great job voicing Asami and bringing her character to life. This gang calls themselves the New Team Avatar.
The new Team Avatar! We got your back, Korra, and we can save the city together.
this gang in Legend of Korra is a lot older than the gang in the original series, which leads to more teen drama and relationships, which I felt were handled pretty well, and they complemented the story. There are many similarities to this team and the gang from the original series. You have 2 guys and 2 girls, the Avatar, 2 siblings, and a non-bender. The Avatar has a relationship with one of the siblings, and everyone in the series has only a first name, except for one girl in the group who has a last name because they come from a rich family. And we even have the equivalent to Appa and Momo, with Naga, Korra's polar bear dog, and a small little creature named Pabu that's Bolin's fire ferret. Naga the polar bear dog was the original design that the creators had for Aang's pet before they decided to go with Appa, and I thought it was cool that they were able to incorporate that in this series. The shows are different in many ways, but still very similar, which I think is perfect because it follows the same formula with the characters, but in its own original way. Then we have Tenzin, who is Aang's son, along with his family. He has 3 kids who are all airbenders: Milo, who is absolutely hilarious, Iki, and Jinora, along with another on the way. Jinora is the oldest and is very mature and smart, and later on plays a big role in the series. Then we have the chief of police, Lin Beifong, who is Toph's daughter. She's a metal bender, and as are the rest of the police force. Lin is stern and grumpy just like Toph, and it takes a while for her to warm up to Korra. Just like in the original series, this show has a lot of girl power. Instead of having the damsel in distress who always needs saving, oftentimes in this show, it's the other way around. Girls kick ass in this show. Korra and Lin are probably the 2 strongest characters, and they're both women. And as I said, even without bending, Asami still kicks ass. It's refreshing to have this change of pace, and can sort of be seen as a message to the world that women aren't helpless, which many other shows and movies represent them as. Now back to Republic City. As I said, this is one of my favorite parts of the series. I love the world that they created. The city has all the different benders and non-benders, which was never done before in the original series. There they had separate parts of land for the different kinds of benders. In Republic City, we see that it's supposed to be based around the 1920s, which in history is known as the Roaring Twenties. The cities were always exciting at night, new technologies were being made like radios and cars. I really like how they approach this because it translates really well to the show. It's supposed to take place 70 years after the original series, which means that the first series took place in the 1850s, which would make sense based on technologies and types of places we saw in that series. But to be honest, I don't think it really follows our timeline in real life, but it's still fascinating to think about. The cars in Legend of Korra are called Sotomobiles, which were named after Asami's father who invented them. I feel like Hiroshi Sata was very loosely based on Henry Ford, who perfected the car assembly line back in the 1920s. Another funny thing is they had never heard or seen of an airplane before it was used as a weapon in the finale. When Korra first comes to Republic City and explores, it's like nothing she's ever seen before. And the same goes for the audience. We're used to the 1850s-like time from the original show, so just like Korra, we're visiting this city for the first time, and we see how much has changed since Aang's days, and we see how the city thrives. We are in awe the same way Korra is, and I thought that seeing it as the audience for the first time, paralleling Korra seeing it for the first time, was a great way to introduce us to Republic City. Now my favorite part of Republic City, it has to be pro bending. Pro bending is a sport where benders compete with each other. Each team has one of each kind of bender, except for air. Mako, Bolin, and Korra form their own team, and we get to watch them play in a tournament. This was probably really hard to write, and they did it beautifully. They don't have a part where they go aside and explain the rules to you before they play. You learn as you watch them play, which is very difficult writing. You pick it up pretty fast between watching them play, listening to the announcer, and listening to the ref. And within about a minute, you pretty much know all of the rules, and you get really into it. I think it might be even better than Quidditch from Harry Potter, which is really saying something. She had to go out of her way to explain the rules in a separate part beforehand in the book. So the fact that they were able to teach us all of the rules to this complicated sport, and get us extremely invested in the match in one scene, is a testament to how good these writers really are. Book 1 can sort of be split into 2 halves. The first half is the introduction to the characters and the new world, and the second half is war. The main villain in Book 1 is a guy named Amon and his army of equalists, who are chi blockers, to take away someone's bending temporarily, which is what Ty Lee did in the original series.
One of those girls did something that took my bending away.
I can't bend!
Calm down. It'll wear off. Those guys were chi blockers. They're Amon's henchmen.
The thing that makes Amon such a threat is that he can take away a person's bending permanently instead of just temporarily. The only other person that was able to do this before him was Aang, which we saw in the finale of the original series with Fire Lord Ozai. Amon wears a mask to cover his face that he tells everyone is scarred from when a firebender attacked him and his family, which led to the death of everyone except for him. He's incredibly powerful and is able to take on pretty much any threat that comes his way, and nobody knows how he's able to do any of this. He can't even be stopped by Tarlok, who is a corrupt governor who captures Korra, and we later find out can bloodbend, which we saw Katara learn from the original series.
Congratulations, Katara. You're a bloodbender.
Later on, we learn that none of his story is true, and he actually has an even more tragic story. Tarlok tells Korra and Mako how he and Amon are brothers, and were sons of a criminal that Aang stopped many years ago, named Yakone. In the end of the book, Tarlok and Amon run away on a boat. It's a great scene because you see that Amon sees the error of his ways, and sees that he has become his father, the very thing he did not want to become.
The two of us together again. There's nothing we can't do.
But Tarlok realized that they both deserved to be punished and knew that the world would be a better place once their bloodbending bloodline was gone forever.
It will be just like the good old days.
And I think it really makes the show stand out from other animated shows. They aren't afraid to take risks and have deeper meanings to create scenes like this. I think that this is one of the best scenes in this book. Not because of what happened necessarily, but the tragic way in which they wrote it. We see Amon tear up out of happiness that he and his brother can start over, and Tarlok comforts him and responds in a hopeful way, wanting Amon to be happy and hopeful for the last few seconds of his life. I think they borrowed from the classic book of Mice and Men. George comforts Lenny right before he shoots him, Lenny having no idea what George is doing, as George tells him they can finally have everything Lenny wanted for them. This is yet another example of how well written this series is, and how they borrow from classic literature. One thing the show excels at is action. The action in the original Avatar was top notch, and I didn't think another animated show could beat it. But I was wrong. Legend of Korra goes above and beyond the original show's action. I think a big factor of this is that they can now use CGI effects to make it blend with the traditional animation, but it can sometimes be overused, especially in the later seasons, but still, they have top-notch action. Even with all of these complex storylines and characters that can oftentimes be very dark, they always manage to make you laugh. The show has a ton of comedy and constantly makes me chuckle as I watch it.
Milo, no, that is not a toilet! Oh dear.
It perfectly blends drama, action, and comedy, just like the other series. Now, some other great episodes from Book 1 that are worth mentioning. The Voice in the Night is a good one. This one really explores Korra's character. It gives her great development and breaks down the tough exterior we're so used to seeing from her. We see her break down crying out of fear as Tenzin holds her.
I was so terrified. I felt so helpless.
It's not often that we see our hero so vulnerable, and it really gives Korra humanity and makes us care for her even more than we already did. Another great episode is The Aftermath. As I said before, Asami is my favorite supporting character, and it's mainly because of the events that take place in this episode. We later find out that Hiroshi Sato, her father, is working for Amon and making him weapons. From what we've seen from Hiroshi so far, he's a good man and a good father. He always takes care of Asami and made sure that she could handle herself. He and Asami have a good relationship. At the end of the episode, the gang finds Hiroshi's workstation underneath their mansion. Everyone goes down except for Asami, and he defeats all of them with his weapons he created. Hiroshi is about to take down Mako and Bolin when Asami yells out at him.
Dad, stop!
There's a beautifully animated shot here when you see Hiroshi turn around and see his face turn from anger to sadness and sorrow, and the shot then continues to Asami, who has extreme sadness and confusion on her face and in her voice.
Why?
One thing I like is that Hiroshi has a legitimate reason to hate Benders, instead of just being evil for the hell of it. He hates Benders because one of them killed his wife and took away the mother to his daughter.
These Benders, they took away your mother, the love of my life.
Then the scene gets even better when he asks Asami to join him. Just watch what happens.
Join me, Asami.
I love you, Dad.
It It's yet another powerful scene. It makes us really feel for Asami and makes us care for her even more than we already did. Hiroshi Sato actually has many parallels to a character from the original series in the episode called The Northern Air Temple. He's also a father who makes inventions, and he's perceived as good at first, but later we find out he's making weapons for the Fire Nation. The last episode of Book 1 that I'm going to talk about is Out of the Past. The reason why I like this one is because we get flashbacks to the old gang, Sokka, Toph, and Aang. We had already seen Katara in the first episode, so she's not in these flashbacks, although she is mentioned. We even get to hear Toph say,
"Follow me, Twinkle Toes."
Toph, I'm 40 years old. You think you can stop with the nicknames?
We also get to see Aang in his prime as an adult avatar, which is so cool. In the finale, we're also introduced to General Iroh, who is Zuko's grandson. He is a freaking beast. He takes out a whole fleet of airplanes, and half the time he's not even in one himself. He's voiced by Dante Bosco, who plays Zuko in the original Avatar series. Honestly though, I wish they would have had Dante Bosco play Zuko later on in the series. None of the characters that return from the original series are voiced by the original voice actor, other than Uncle Iroh, but a few do make cameos as other characters. Book 1 was by far the best of the 4. It's pretty much perfect. It introduced us to the new characters in the new world. It made us really care for them. Now, Book 2. This one was called Spirits. It was, in my opinion, the weakest book of the series. One big complaint I have is that a lot of it doesn't take place in Republic City, and it doesn't have any probe ending, which were two of my favorite things from Book 1. There are a lot of new characters like Varrick, Kaya, Bumi, Unalaq, Tonraq, and we're introduced to Rava and Vatsu. Varrick is by far my favorite new addition. He brings a lot of great comedy, probably the funniest in my opinion, being that he takes his assistant Zhu Li everywhere he goes.
Thank you, Julie.
Your assistant's in there too?
Julie never leaves my side.
Kaya and Bumi are Tenzin's brother and sister, and that brings a lot of sibling drama, which I didn't really care for. That drama also translates into Tenzin's kids, which was even worse. And there's even more sibling drama with Tonraq, who is Korra's father, and her uncle Unalaq, who is the main villain. But I actually really like this part, because we get some backstory on this, and learn how Tonraq was banished from the Northern Water Tribe because his own brother Unalaq set him up. With all of that backstory, it makes the final fight all the more epic and dramatic. One thing I didn't like about Unalaq was that he was too similar to Tarlok from Book 1. It's so bad, I often find myself calling Unalaq Tarlok by accident. They even look the same. I wish they could have made a more unique character and made him different from Tarlok. Now, Rava and Vatsu. They're two spirits, the light and the dark, and they maintain balance in the world. The way they are introduced is probably the best part of the book. It was a 2-part episode called Beginnings. Here we learn the story of the first Avatar named Wan and how he became the Avatar. The animation here is different than normal and is much more simple, which I really like because I think that simple animation blends nicely with the simple time in which the story takes place. It's written so well, and it's a great expansion of the Avatar universe. We learn a lot of new things, such as more on the 4 lion turtles, which we saw in the finale of the original series. But the main point was to learn about Rava and Vatsu. Basically, Rava is inside the Avatar, which is what connects all of the Avatar to their past lives. And Vatsu has been locked up since Avatar Wan defeated him. Now, 10,000 years later, harmonic convergence is on its way, and there are 2 spirit portals, and if both are opened, Vatsu will be able to free himself. Unalaq, who tricked Korra into opening one, threatens Janora's life if she doesn't open the second one. That's the main conflict of this book. My biggest problem with this season, though, is that too much was going on. On top of all of this, there is a civil war between the North and the South Water Tribes, each being led by one of the brothers, Tonraq and Unalaq. Then there is a lot of propaganda going on back at Republic City, with Varrick making Bolin a movie star, or a mover star as they call it, which I felt was a little bit out there and kind of out of place compared to what was going on in Book 1. But I do really like the political aspect that they focus on, and how they had a lot of propaganda to get more troops to fight for Korra's dad. I felt that it added a lot of maturity to the show, which is one of the things that made Book 1 so good. So I'm glad that they were able to continue that streak for Book 2. On top of all of that other stuff going on, we have Mako and Asami doing an investigation on who blew up a building in Republic City, and end up getting involved with a triad. And on top of that, we follow Tenzin and his family on a vacation to the Southern Air Temple, where all of the sibling drama takes place that I mentioned earlier. And on top of that, we have a lot of relationship drama with Korra and Mako. Man, that's a lot of stuff going on. After the first time I watched the season and looked back on it, I couldn't even tell you what it was about because there was so much that happened that it was all just a jumbled mess. The way they wrote the relationships in book 1 was successful because it complemented the story. It affected how they played in the tournament, and the situations they were in made them realize how they felt about each other. Like when Tarlok captured Korra, it made Mako realize that he loved her.
When Tarlok took you, I was losing my mind at the thought of never seeing you again. I realized I love you, Korra.
But in book 2, it didn't work very well because it was just thrown in there because the writers felt like they had to put it in. I felt it was very forced here and it made it uninteresting and boring. It didn't complement the story the way book 1 did and just added to the jumbled mess that is book 2. I also didn't like the approach they took with Korra in the beginning. She's just a bitch to everyone like Mako, Tenzin, and her father. I felt that the character I had grown to love so much in book 1 wasn't there anymore. There are many great references to the original series in this season. We see the hidden library where the gang went in the original show, and see the wise owl that chased them out.
I've read about this place. Grandpa Aang came here. It's Wan Shi Tong's spirit library.
We also see the professor that went down with them, who wanted to stay down there as they were escaping.
The last human who said that is still here.
We also see General Zhao, who was the villain in the finale of book 1 of the original series.
I am Zhao the Conqueror. I am the Moon Slayer.
And as I mentioned before, the lion turtles that showed Aang how to defeat Ozai without killing him make an appearance. But the best thing was seeing Uncle Iroh in the spirit world. It was great to hear him share his wisdom again.
You will find that if you look for the light, you can often find it. But if you look for the dark, that is all you will ever see.
The final few episodes of this book redeemed a lot of the flaws that I mentioned earlier. We finally see Team Avatar come back together. I just wish it didn't take 11 episodes to happen. As I said before, Vaatu was released during harmonic convergence, and in the finale he fuses with Unalaq, the same way that Rava fused with Wan, to make Unalaq a dark avatar. Then we see Unalaq and Korra turn into giant spirits and fight it out in Republic City, which was a spectacle in itself. One thing I didn't like at all was the fact that Korra lost the connection with the past avatars, meaning she can never call on Aang or Roku or Kyoshi or any of the other past avatars ever again, which could have led to some great stories. The reason she lost the connection is because Unalaq as the Dark Avatar pulled Rava out of Korra and killed her, which in itself was a very powerful scene, but I wish they could have brought back the connection with the past avatars just like they brought Rava back. On the other hand, I do like the fact that this show has consequences and bad things can happen and won't always be fixed. I like that they do that, but I wish they could have taken away anything else but that. Maybe a death of someone we care about? I don't know. I just don't like the fact that there's no connection with the past avatars, because that was one of the things that I found most interesting about the avatar concept. Another big change that occurred at the end of book 2 was that Korra chose to keep the spirit portals open, meaning that spirits and humans could live together for the first time in 10,000 years since Avatar 1 closed them. I'm not really a fan of this either, because another one of the main points of the Avatar is to be the bridge between man and spirits. So now that everyone can communicate with spirits, and on top of that she has no past avatars to talk to, I just find the Avatar rather pointless. Sure, she still can bend all 4 elements and can maintain peace in the world, but 2/3 of the main point of the Avatar is lost. Book 2 was the worst of the 4 in my opinion. Now was it bad? No, certainly not. In comparison to many other shows, this season was top notch. I think it was just really hard to follow up such a perfect season before it, and a near flawless series before that. Well, that's part 1. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe. Stick around for part 2. Link is right here.